My name is Melissa. I'm a 45-year-old cancer fighter with breast cancer, stage 3C. In 2017, I was 37 and I felt my own lump in the shower. I had previously done 3 rounds of IVF and none were successful. After the third, I decided to give my body a break and just move on to something different. In the meantime, this happened. I found my own lump, and what started as we caught it early, don't worry, everything is fine, turned into a 15-hour surgery where it's far more aggressive than we originally thought. And we're going to remove your right breast, do a deep flap reconstruction at the same time, and remove 38 lymph nodes, which 37 were positive. Some of the side effects from the chemo that I was receiving and the type of cancer I have, it was hormone positive, estrogen and progesterone driven cancer. So they had to do everything in their power to suppress the hormones. So that already from medications and chemo suppresses it as much as they can, but a year later, in my next round of ultrasounds and different things, there were cysts and polyps on my ovaries that weren't there a year prior. So precautionary, they removed everything from the inside, because even though they can suppress your hormones as much as they try, if you have ovaries, you're making estrogen, it's safer to just remove everything. So once everything's removed and you no longer have these body parts, your body is just going to start to do what naturally would happen for a woman in her late 50s to 60s, but just fast forward to my 30s. I do have 3 brothers who were very helpful, but to not have a woman there who fully understands made it hard. So I went straight to the internet, and that's where I came across the Breasties. The Breasties is a community of women affected by not only breast cancer, gynecological cancers, and it's a community built for women like myself who were diagnosed and don't have family, whether you have family history or not. Sometimes your friends or family just don't get it. It wasn't normal for my age at 37 to have this kind of surgery when my friends are all getting married, having kids, going on vacations. I was doing this surgery and a year later had to have a full hysterectomy. So they can relate being in your 30s and in menopause, where friends and family don't get it because it's not natural to be menopausal in your 30s. You just, I found this community where I can connect with other women. Trying to have children and being okay with now facing the fact, I chose to obviously stop the IVF after 3 rounds, but I still wanted children. So now I definitely can't have children. I definitely can't, it's not even a thought, it's just taken away. And going through menopause in your 30s, but on the outside, people are looking at you like, I'm still a mom, I still have to go food shopping, I'm still cleaning the house and cooking and doing these things. And if you work, you still got to get up and go to work and all these things, where if you're older and you start going through it, you're more, you slow down and people are like, oh, she's slowing down, she's getting older, but you're expected to just kind of push through a hot flash midday, when you're having full meltdown, but you just got to keep going, because I have a daughter who's in her teens at the time, and I want to make sure I'm there for everything as normal as possible. So you just kind of grit through it as much as you can. So in 2017, when I was diagnosed with stage 3C, it's estrogen and progesterone positive with HER2 negative breast cancer, and I do carry a mutation for CHEK2, which now they're learning things about, that it causes a higher risk in breast cancer and colon cancer. But back in 2017, there's not enough studies for them to warrant any more testing for individuals. I was told that with the amount of lymph nodes that were taking out from my chest and my arm and my armpit, with 38 being removed and 37 being positive with cancer, it was very invasive. So the percentage I was given was 15%. Past 1 year is like phenomenal to reach that mark. I'm here about to reach my 8th year of surviving and fighting. And back then, I didn't know what to do. I started an email address for my daughter, which was hard because she was 15. And 1 year, I'm 365 days. What do you say? I've always been a writer. So I've always journaled and wrote poetry and filled books all the time. So my way of dealing with it was to write it down. But at 15, you don't want to be a burden. So I wanted her to have a normal childhood, show up every day, do everything, but leave her with stuff. So I filled it with recipes and life advice and things I knew I would probably miss, including her 18th birthday. Funny things we used to share together. Little sayings and dumb jokes that we had. Just so it's there for her. And I held it year after year until her 18th birthday. And then I gave it to her. And I still use it to this day. I never shared with her what I was doing. And I didn't share with her until she turned 18. I shared with my sister-in-law the email and the passwords in case something was to happen, so she could give it to her. But here I am, almost 8 years later, and she's 23 and recently got engaged, and so I'm learning to just celebrate those small victories and focus on that. If I had to go back to 2017 and give myself, say, a pep talk, I would say don't focus so much on being sick. Focus more on what you can do. And the little things don't matter. All the little things, you might wake up and even milk being sour, doesn't matter. None of that stuff matters. How you feel, how you make other people feel, that's the stuff that's gonna matter in the long run. I would go back to, I would say, that first year even, and in the whirlwind of surgeries and chemo and radiation, I was so focused on not being sick that I made myself sicker, and I wasn't living. So I was just kind of passing the days of treatment, but not enjoying anything along the way. So I would tell myself to go back, and who cares? Your hair is falling out. You're going to be bald. Who cares? None of that matters. It comes and goes. At that time, what mattered the most was leaving something for my daughter. Leaving some kind of footprint for her to look back. And all the while, she didn't need those little things. She needed me. I see that now. Like, I see that, like, when we talk as her being an adult. Like, she's like, she appreciates, like, all the emails and different things leading up to that. But she more appreciated going to her softball games, or going just for, like, outside for ice cream, or here, just spending time. That mattered more. So I would just go back and say, just be happier during that time, because that time matters. So to someone saying to me, how could you say just be happy? How could you say just keep moving along? For me, when I was first diagnosed, that sounds like when people say, but at least you're alive. Yeah, I'm alive, but cancer sucks. It sucks to have bones that feel like I'm 80 and not be able to ride a scooter because if I fall, I'm going to fracture my hip. But when you lay your head at nighttime and you just want to make sure that you made the most of your day. Some days are going to be harder than others. There's days where I didn't leave the restroom because I'm throwing up from the meds or the chemo. But there's other days where I could have made the most of the day, but I was so consumed in my head of how sick I was. I didn't even grasp, like, time is just moving. And the little bit I have left, for however long that's going to be, I have to find happiness somewhere in there. There has to be a pocket of happiness. I would say through this journey of breast cancer, I'm currently working on a book. It's called Cancer Saved My Life. And the reason I chose that title is I was in a very unhappy, toxic relationship for almost 20 years. And if I wouldn't have got sick, I wouldn't have got out of it. Cancer, in retrospect, made me appreciate myself, find my own happiness, find my own worth in this world. And I always tell people, like, that's my pocket of happiness. Like, I was like, what am I going to do now in my 40s, like, single and had multiple surgeries, and who's going to love me with these scars and these, none of that matters. Because I have peace of mind now and I lay my head on the pillow and I don't have everything figured out, but I'm happy. So I would say now, being single and after just having a revision surgery with another scare on my left side just a few months ago, all of that happening, newly single and talking to friends who were single, they're like, oh, just go on the dating app and everything. I'm like, okay, so if I go on the dating app, when is it appropriate to say, by the way, I have breast cancer? Because, I hear stories of other girls and they're like, oh, well, we went out and then we just went home and, we're fooling around. For me, that's so far from my realm of thought, because it took years for myself to even look in the mirror and to start to say, like, it's okay. Like, everybody has issues with their body. Before this, I didn't love certain parts of my body. Like, my legs were too short, or, like, now I'm like, it's just another part of me, but it's not me. Like, if I'm going to go into the dating world, if you're just going to look at my breast as, and that's it, and judge me from scars, you're probably not the person I want to date anyways. And I'm probably still not there yet as far as just letting someone see me until I can fully see myself and just smile back like, it's okay. I was for a few years so intrigued, like, with women that had revisions and different things because of the symmetry. And I'm like, you know what? I'd rather you take everything and I don't have another scare. than worry so much about wearing a prosthetic because someone's going to look at my shirt and see it slanted, because I'm worried more so of how guys will, view me and like, what's wrong with her? Like, why is it? Because I don't always want to tell everybody I have breast cancer. I don't want to be the topic of every conversation to go back to being sick. Like, we should be able to talk about other things, because for so long, I think with women, we lose ourselves even in the diagnosis. Because every topic, every family conversation, you're the fragile one, you're the sick one, we don't want that to always be the case. I want to know what you did on Tuesday, not me going back for another treatment, or me, getting sick and I have to stay home because the weather's changing and my immune system's not the best. We just want to be seen as everybody else. Everybody has flaws, and especially when you're dating, you're putting yourself out there. Like, when is it appropriate to talk about you possibly putting it on the table, you have breast cancer? I think maybe at the beginning, because if they're not going to be okay with it, they're not going to be okay with it from the beginning. So before you even get to the point of intimacy, I think you have to tackle that conversation with dating. And that in itself can be like scary, I think, for a lot of women. First had my initial surgery and came home, and I was already in my head about them not following my plan, knowing it was aggressive. So now I have one side of me multiple cup sizes smaller than the other. So I knew the symmetry was off. And I think a big part of that is, if I can't see it, how am I going to portray it to anybody else that I'm okay, I'm fine, like I'm okay with my body. So I just kind of hid away in baggy clothes and just would not look in the mirror. I wouldn't even get dressed in front of the mirror. I started to buy oversized sports bras, different, that I can just hide behind. And that shift didn't come until probably this past year, being single. So if you have a partner that already makes you not feel worthy of your own beauty, and then have a diagnosis on top of that, it kind of bombards you, and then you get in your own head about it. And I needed to shed that, and then I started to see myself differently. My advice, if you can't look at yourself in the mirror after surgery or diagnosis, is that nobody's perfect. Even prior to diagnosis, our breasts are not the same size to begin with. One arm is shorter than the other. One leg is shorter than the other. Nobody is fully happy with their body. They might portray it through their confidence. So I think working on your confidence is more at the forefront to being okay with your body. It all starts in your own head. So if you start telling yourself these affirmations and these different things day after day, I am beautiful, I deserve to be here, I deserve to be happy. No matter what they do over here to your chest, to your, myself, I was cut my whole midsection. And a lot of times women compare it to a C-section scar. It's not. And it's dismissive, especially to a woman that can't have children. I learned to embrace the scar. It's just, it's just a scar. I'm still me. I didn't change who I am. I'm probably stronger, smarter. I speak up for myself now, and I speak up for women who maybe can't find their footing or find their voice. So I take pride in that, and that comes across as confident. And that comes across as more beautiful, not more beautiful, but more beautiful than I was before in my own eyes. Because before I wouldn't look, and I'd keep my head down, just get through treatment and another surgery and just kind of stay quiet about. But now I found this confidence, and that I think is where I find my beauty. Like I said, I write poetry and I share poetry throughout New York City in the hopes of switching the narrative. Like, we are so much more than the color pink. So much more. Women, and it's not just a bullet point of breast cancer. There's so many different aspects, and no two things are the same. Just because one woman has breast cancer, oh, you might get along with this one. There's so many different types of breast cancer. So it's really important to create a community and create a voice for women that are seeking that. So I hope that there's a reason I passed that 15% in the 1 year. And I feel like this is the reason to be that person for women who are newly diagnosed and can't find their footing right away. So,
yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I knew my daughter part was gonna get me.